All right, let's talk about a huge mystery in the academic world. Every single year, you have these incredibly brilliant, dedicated people who decide to take on one of the toughest challenges out there, getting a PhD. But somewhere along the way, something goes terribly wrong. Because this is, on average, how many doctoral students never actually finish their programs. 50%. Just think about that. That is half of all that brain power, all that potential, all those late nights, just gone, vanished from the system. So you have to ask, why? What is happening here? Is the research just too hard? Is it about money, the pressure? Well, it turns out the research points to something that's actually way more fundamental and a lot more personal. Yeah, it turns out that one of the biggest predictors of whether a student makes it or not, it all seems to hinge on the relationship they have with their doctoral advisor. So let's dive in and break down exactly where this crucial connection seems to go off the rails for so many people. Okay, so here's our plan. We're going to start with just how big this 50% problem really is. Then we'll look at how researchers literally mapped out the disconnect between students and professors, see what each side wants, and find that huge gap in the middle. And most importantly, we'll talk about how to fix it. First up, let's really get a handle on the 50% PhD problem and why the stakes are so incredibly high. Now, this isn't just about a personal setback. This is an expensive problem. We're talking about serious money. A study at Notre Dame figured out that if they could lower their attrition rate by just 10%, the university would save $1 million a year. And that's just in student stipends. It's a massive financial drain. And at the very heart of all this is this incredibly delicate balancing act. And honestly, this quote from a student just nails it. How much help is too much and how much is not enough? Getting that balance right, well, that's the whole game. So how in the world do you even begin to figure out where things are going wrong? Well, some really clever researchers found a way to literally map out this whole advising maze. A study by Philip Condor-Adu tried to create a visual for how students and professors see the exact same situation so differently. They used this cool technique called concept mapping. The best way to think about it is like creating a priority map of someone's brain. You give a person a whole bunch of ideas and just ask them to sort them into piles that make sense to them. It's a brilliant way to see what people truly value, often without them even realizing it. And the process itself was actually pretty straightforward, but really powerful. First, they came up with 40 statements about what good advising looks like. Then, they got a bunch of students and professors to sort those statements and rate how important each one was. And then, this is the magic part, software crunched all of that data and created actual visual maps, turning all those messy human opinions into clear data we can analyze. And what those maps showed was a huge eye-opener. So if we look at the students' map first, one theme just screams out at you. You could basically title their map, Guide My Path. When the students sorted all those statements, they consistently put all the ideas about structure and direction into one big high-priority pile. Things like defining goals, explaining the rules, telling them what to do next, giving them real, honest feedback. That was all front and center for them. So the takeaway here is unmistakable. Students feel like they're on this incredibly complex and confusing journey, and what they want more than anything is a clear map and a guide who can actually read it. Okay, so that's what the students want. But what about the professors? When you look at their priority map, well, it's a completely different picture. Their map could be called, Let's Talk. Yeah, the professors, on the other hand, grouped all their statements around the relationship itself. They prioritized things like building a good rapport, having an open dialogue, just being accessible, and providing support. For them, it's all about creating a positive, interactive environment. So for the professors, it's less about providing a map and a lot more about being a supportive companion for the walk. They're focused on the human connection. And right there, that is the disconnect. This is what we're calling the great priority gap. It's where two sets of really good intentions just completely miss each other. I mean, just look at this side by side. It lays it out perfectly. The students are saying, please, just show me the path. Give me a map. And the professors are responding, hey, let's walk this path together. I'll be your supportive friend. Now, what's so important to get here is that neither side is wrong. They both want the student to succeed, but they are speaking completely different languages. So, okay, we've got this huge communication gap. How do we fix it? How do we bridge it?
Well, the great thing is, the research also points to a solution. It's all about finding the stuff that's high impact but low difficulty. The easy wins.
And the study has a great name for this, the Go Zone. These are the things that both students and professors agreed were super important for success and also pretty easy to actually do. It's the absolute sweet spot where you can make a huge difference without a ton of effort. This matrix just lays it all out so clearly. See that top left box? High importance, low difficulty. That's the Go Zone. These aren't huge, complicated, thankless projects. This is the low-hanging fruit. These are the quick wins that can immediately start to close that priority gap. And this is where we should be focusing our energy. So what's actually in this magic Go Zone? Well, it's stuff that just makes a ton of sense when you hear it. Things like letting students choose their own advisors, making sure advisors are actually accessible, clearly explaining the rules for writing a dissertation, and underneath it all, this foundational idea that they both agreed on, mutual respect. It costs absolutely nothing, it's easy, and it is critical. And that really brings us to the final thought here. This huge divide between what students need and what professors are offering, it isn't some deep-seated problem. It's a simple misunderstanding. It's a communication gap that can be bridged with a conversation. So that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? If a simple, honest conversation about expectations can solve a multi-million-dollar problem and help countless brilliant people reach their goals, what's stopping us from starting one?